Midge was tall, and the boy peered out from one end like the turtle itself. His eyes were grey, almost covered by his drooping lids. It seemed at times he had no eyes, when all I could see were the darkened crescents below his lashes. But he still smiled in his cheerful fashion. "All's bob, Tom," he said. "We'll reach them islands tomorrow, I think." I didn't understand how he could never lose hope. I felt like flinging myself down in the kicking tantrum of a child, screaming about the unfairness of it all. I was the owner of a fabulous jewel, of a wealth beyond imagining. I had only to get home to London to claim it, but the fates, it seemed, would never allow me that. As I settled down beside Midgley, my thoughts ran their endless circle, beginning, as always, with the notion that I was cursed by the jolly stone. I believed absolutely that it brought ruin to all who touched it, and I vowed that I would one day unearth the jewel from its London grave just to pass on the curse to Mr. Goodfellow. I imagined with great pleasure how his greedy eyes would glow when I put the stone into his butter-soft hands. Then, as always, doubts leapt in to chase this thought. How could a simple stone, a thing of the earth, carry such unearthly power? Wasn't Mr. Goodfellow really to blame? It was he who had sent my father to debtor's prison, and me to the South Seas in the hold of a convict ship. Give the diamond to him? Hardly. I would keep the stone for myself, and use its wealth to crush the man like a cockroach. But what if the stone were cursed? I wondered, and round I went again. I could sometimes spend hours thinking in circles, but today I had only begun when the boat suddenly rocked, and my head banged against its ribs. Benjamin Penny shouted, "Watch where you're going, you great oaf!" Gaskin Boggis was moving to his place beside the engine. That was where he always slept, nestled with the machinery. To him, it must have been like a favourite old dog, a friend to be fed and watered by night, to be petted through the day. I tried to find a bit of shade behind Midgley's turtle shell, but with each roll of the boat, sunlight flashed across my face. I lay on planks that were, at most, an inch in thickness. On their other side was water so deep that it made me dizzy to think of it. What manner of things lurked down there? With the engine silenced, I could hear the slop of water beneath the boat. My horrors paraded in my mind. Man-eating fishes, serpents and leviathans, storm and tempest, and every man who'd ever drowned. Of them all, this last fear was my greatest. The splash against the planks became the thrashing of lost sailors swimming up behind us. Every scratch and tap of wood was the sound of their fingers feeling at the boat, and I dared not lift my head lest I see them reaching for the gunwale. I pressed more closely to Midge. "Don't think of ghosts, Tom," he said. By then he knew my every thought. "Think about the Cape, Tom. Think about England. Every morning we're closer." He was such a kind-hearted fellow. He never complained, and he worried more for me than he did for himself. "Think of this, too. She's a good boat." Behind his turtle shell, Midge tapped the planks, giving me a dreadful start. "Solid as a rock, ain't she? No fear there." Well, he'd never seen the boat, not properly. Once as pretty as a music box, it was crumbling around us now, shaking to pieces from the thump of the engine. Trembling nails had raised their heads from the wood, and then their shoulders, as though trying to make a run for it. Planks that had sparkled were weathered and cracked, and the boat was shedding its varnish like snakeskin. "All's bob," said Midge again, with a gentle squeeze of my arm. "Tomorrow we'll see land." Above us, Walter Wheatle turned lazily toward the south. The scar on his face was more livid than ever, an ugly streak on his sunburnt skin. I no longer worried that he would do me in as I slept. Wheatle was cunning, but cowardly too, and it shamed me to think I had once been afraid of him.